Thank you, Mr. President. And happy to be here today under these very unique circumstances. And I reflect during the time that I've had the privilege to serve in the legislature in both houses, the solemn nature and the unique circumstances that we find ourselves in today. So I applaud you and my colleagues for being here. And I hearken back to how we achieved some legislative action after September 11th. Different set of circumstances, but at the time we actually had a joint session of the legislature in the State Assembly presided over by Governor Pataki, then Majority Leader Senator Bruno, and then Speaker Sheldon Silver. And it was amazing the things that got done in a very tight time frame. Here we are today, and I use the word solemn because I almost feel like I'm in a church. It's like a house of worship because it's so quiet. And there's good reason for that. So I want to thank Leader Stewart-Cousins, Senator Gianaris, my colleague Senator Griffo, and really all the senators who are here. They are here. Out of an abundance of caution, we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. And I do want to make a couple of comments about where I think our members are in relation to today. There's not a person who is not slightly apprehensive, maybe a little element of fear, a little element of understanding, misunderstanding, looking for guidance, looking for direction, hopefully looking for leadership. And that can just be on a personal level involving your own family. But here, as we sit in the seat of government, I think we take a more in-depth look at who we are and what our responsibilities are. And at a time of crisis, and we are in a legitimate crisis, people have expectations that their leaders that they have duly elected will act accordingly on their behalf. I don't think I'm talking out of school. Mr. President, you and I chatted briefly about your daughter. You know, you're going to worry about your family, I'm going to worry about my family, and God knows you're going to worry about your daughter. And that's the way it should be. And so we have to be reflective of our constituents who are wondering, is my kid coming home from school? Am I ever going to get a refund for the kid going to college? What am I going to do with my elementary school children? What am I going to do about my constituents who are worried about whether or not they can get to work, whether or not they're going to have a job? Are they going to be working remotely? What does that mean? And how does all that play out at a time where people are really looking for their government to act like leaders? Now, I'm going to speak personally. I believe, listening to my own staff and what I see, Governor Cuomo is making an extraordinary effort to provide leadership. 24/7, 26/7, 37, whatever it may be. He and his staff, by extension all the state agencies, they are doing everything humanly possible, literally humanly possible, and everything conceivable. When I talk to a local hospital and find out that they're worried about whether or not they have surgical masks or they have the requisite gloves and they really want to take care of their patients, there isn't a person who works in government who isn't literally at this moment trying to figure out, how do we make that happen? Who do we call? Like, how do you figure out where to get all this stuff? How do you get a ventilator? How do you get something on an emergency basis? So I laud very clearly the governor for being extraordinarily proactive, for being outspoken, for being a vintage and quintessential New Yorker when he needs to be. But I do think people are really paying attention. Those daily briefings, which are extended to us, and to our staff, are extraordinarily important. I believe that the governor's staff is really endeavoring to interact with us in a way that is making everybody feel comfortable so we can disseminate what's going on. I got a call from my county controller today, and yesterday we were able to get clarification on something that has to do with payroll, so somebody can get a paycheck. Every one of our colleagues, and I'm sure it's the same for Leader Stewart-Cousins, they're saying, what are we doing? Like, what actions are we taking? Today, and with this bill, I think there's a very clear recognition of what is being done, and it's finite. We're taking an issue and addressing that issue at this time because it's important and it means real things to real people, and this is addressing an acute problem in the right way in a limited capacity. We will have time to have these other debates. And in fact, while it's seemingly innocuous, we actually are passing the debt service bill today. You and I both know that's the first step in the budget process. That's the first time Leader Stewart-Cousins can bring out something and say, we are moving along on the budget. And ironically, people are going to start to pay attention to debt service more than they ever have. And rightfully so, because we're going to have a whole bunch of new debt because of the things that we're going to have to do. I watch what goes on across the country, but I also watch, like everybody else, what's going on in Washington. And I believe the same that I described for the state of New York is applicable to the President and our leaders down in Washington. My colleagues on Long Island, Congressman Peter King, Congressman Zeldin, many of our colleagues across the state of New York. We all have a laser-like focus on how can we help the people we represent and do it in a way and shape and form that they can understand and it makes a difference in their life. So it's every level of government, town, county, village, whatever it may be, the school district, the water district, the sanitation district. Who's picking up the garbage? All those types of things. But at the federal level, Vice President Pence and the federal administration, they're looking at major stimuluses to provide relief to people, small business owners, not-for-profits, nursing homes. We're not only worried about their supplies, but whether or not they can meet payroll. So I want to compliment this legislative body. I want to compliment the legislature, and gosh knows we have a ton more work to do. But when the governor of the state of New York and the President of the United States are in sync and acting in a bipartisan way, that inures to the benefit of the millions of people in this state that we still continue to call the Empire State. We have more work to do in front of us. And I've been here a long time. I've never been in a chamber like this. I'm looking at my 4 colleagues here. We are literally representative of every one of our members who genuinely want to be here because they believe in what they do. And I'm going to just close again by saying I support these bills. And we'll have much more time for debate on other policy issues. It's just not going to be today. But this provides relief at an appropriate time, in an appropriate way. And I thank the governor for all the things that I said, and I'll repeat them once more. Those briefings and all the information goes a long way in allaying some of the fears and concerns of the public. Mr. President, I vote aye. Thank you.